What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel, and on this awesome Monday, off the tails of the 2022 NFL Scouting Combine weekend, thought it was a perfect time to drop a brand new, crispy, fresh, hot out the press, first round mock draft, post-combine mock draft, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock, but I gotta ask them just to pause for a second. Because if you're waiting for Eagles content, I do plan on releasing a 7-round Eagles mock draft some point this week. Could be a doubleheader today. Don't get your hopes up, but also, maybe, could be a little surprise for you. Also plan on releasing Eagles-specific draft content, like prospects I think the Eagles should get, how I would handle the draft. We have free agency coming up. I have my rankings dropping for the 2022 draft. Yesterday, I dropped my quarterback rankings. Go check that out. The rest of those will be scattered between now and the draft. Also, early access goes to my Patreon, so you guys can check that out. And that'll be sprinkled in with our regular football content, Eagles, pink slips, career rebuilds, regular rebuilds, and I did try to drop a hint that I'm working on NCAA series, and I literally about 45 minutes ago got the previews of the team that I had made for this never before seen on YouTube NCAA series, and I'm very excited to drop that for you guys in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. But it is time, with the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock, to get into a post-combine mock draft, and with the first overall selection, the Jacksonville Jaguars, with new head coach Doug Peterson, select Ikem Ekwonu, a.k.a. Icky Ekwonu from NC State. Kind of came into this combine, Evan Neal 1, Icky Ekwonu 2. Leave the combine, Evan Neal 1A, Icky Ekwonu 1B, kind of what you want. And I watched the drills, and the on-field drills, Icky Ekwonu, and in my opinion, Tyler Smith from Tulsa were the two big winners. And Tyler Smith snuck into Daniel Jeremiah's first round in his last mock draft. He will be a first rounder here today because I thought he had one of the most impressive combine performances for an offensive line. But him and Icky Ekwonu were the best two. And I got vibes watching Icky Ekwonu a little bit lighter in the ass Jason Peters. And when you remind Doug Peterson of Jason Peters, probably going to get picked because the number one priority for the Jacksonville Jaguars is protecting Trevor Lawrence. I think last mock draft I had them going Evan Neal. I don't think they could go wrong with either one of these spots, even though historically over the last couple of years tackles haven't gone first overall. I think in this weird draft class, you take your blue chip players, and Icky Ekwonu is very much a blue chip player. Please protect Trevor Lawrence. That's all you got to do. Protect him. Help him. Build around him on the offense, and that starts with the offensive line. Pick 2 for the Detroit Lions. Kind of been set and forget for this pick. Last couple of mock drafts, and that is Aiden Hutchinson. Went in the combine, Ekwonu 4.93 in the combine. It's impressive, but it's offensive lineman. More, I take more from the linemen, how they look in the drills, how do they stand out from the other top linemen. Aiden Hutchinson went in the combine, very high expectations. Was on Bruce Feldman's freak list, 4.74, 6.73 in the 3-cone, just elite. He was supposed to crush all the agility drills, which he did, and really just solidified himself as a chance to go first overall. I think it wouldn't be shocking if the Jags select Aiden Hutchinson, but if he falls to 2, I'll be shocked if the Detroit Lions decide to pass on him. Detroit Lions pretty much just need best player available outside, and there's no quarterback. You're not going to be able to upgrade over Jared Goff this offseason, so why not build through the trenches, get a local kid, get a guy that's immediately going to contribute, and I wouldn't be shocked to see double-digit sacks as a rookie. They got a lot of money paid on the Detroit Lions defense, try to get out to the quarterback. And unfortunately, they have not got return on investments, but I think they can get that with the 2nd overall pick. 3rd pick, we have the Houston Texans, and I'm going to have them get Kayvon Thibodeaux. I know Thibodeau's a little polarizing. I know some people aren't super happy they didn't work on the field because there's reports about his work ethic and stuff like that. He's blue chip, 4.58, 27 on the bench. He's blue chip player, and he can describe himself as Jadeveon Clowney 2.0. And while Clowney might not have ever lived up to the hype in terms of sacks that he got coming out, he was still a good pick for the Houston Texans. And ultimately, when Houston drafts an edge rusher in the 1st round, they don't miss. Mario Williams, J.J. Watt. You got, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney. Was Whitney Merciless 1st rounder? Can't remember. Either way, another hit, ultimately. So I think if you're Houston, kind of like Detroit, no real bad pick, you can make it 3. You just need talent. Your team is so starved of talent, you take it where you can get it. And Thibodeaux is a day 1 starter, blue chip player from this draft. And with all the uncertainty over the quarterback spot, hey, at least you can start to build up that defense. 4th overall, we have the Jets on the clock. This is a tough pick. This is where I have no idea. I try looking around, looking at Jets mock drafts, seeing what Jet fans have been saying. I have no idea how the Jets want to approach this draft. 4 and 10. they can do a lot of damage. Those are very valuable picks. I think right now, if I'm the Jets, I would be looking to trade down, just acquire even more picks. But if you're saying these spots, just keep getting blue chip players. And while a lot of people were a little disappointed with the 40-yard dash time, 4.59 for Hamilton, 38 in the vert, tested very well in the safety drills, probably stood out the most during the safety drills. He's blue chip. People think maybe he falls with the 40. I feel like just positional value, safeties aren't valued that much. And if you are going to have a safety go top 5, they should be elite, S tier, and everything. And, obviously the straight line speed. But he's 6'4", 220. You look at a lot of the safeties that combine, they're running 4.3s. They're like sub 6 feet tall, barely over 200 pounds, if under 200 pounds. So Kyle Hamilton, different type of beast. I think if you're Jets, you go blue chip at pick 4. At pick 5, easiest pick so far of the mock draft. Now, I'm disappointed in this player, along with Derek Stingley. The two that I really wanted to see test, because I thought they were going to just, viral, because they're aliens. They're not regular human beings. But at pick 5, Giants run this up to the board here. Evan Neal, tackle from Alabama. You can figure out where you put Andrew Thomas, if you keep it left or right. I would assume you move him right. You get a blue chip player at Evan Neal at offensive line. I mean, Giants' offensive line has been dire for years. Now it seems like, how fitting would it be like the Giants finally start to establish some form of offensive line and then they trade away Saquon Barkley. At least that's what the Twitter world's saying. That would just be brutal because you want to see Saquon, much as I don't want to see it as an Eagles fan. That offensive line has completely, just unfortunate situation. That you took a generational talent, Saquon Barkley, and what's happened has kind of happened. But you could do your part here at 5 by getting Evan Neal, blue chip offensive tackle, plug and play, day one starter. Speaking of tackles, we go to pick 6. It just feels like Panthers are good with Sam Darnold again. I've had them go quarterback. Malik Willis could be interesting at 6, but it just, I get the vibe that the Panthers aren't looking at QB. So if you're not looking at QB, if you think there's just something there with Darnold, you need to build up the talent around him, you got to go on the offensive line. And we're going to get Charles Cross, tackle Mississippi State. Had him in my last mock draft, 4.95, a 1.73 split. Pretty much tested out very well. Good pass blocker. Needs to work on his run blocking a little bit, but you have your right tackle in there in Taylor Moton. Get the left tackle that can play on the other side of him for years to come, which I think is what you can get in Charles Cross, and maybe get another year of just, seeing what Sam Darnold could do. I don't know if that's great for Matt Rule in terms of his job security, gambling another year on Sam Darnold, but for whatever reason, man, that's the kind of vibes I get out of Carolina right now. And if that's your guy, I think the best guy to help, give you another chance, another tryout of a season for Sam Darnold is on the offensive line, and that's Charles Cross at pick 6. Pick 7 is up next for the Giants. Hit on Evan Neal. Now it's time to take a riser from the draft, and that is Travon Walker, defensive lineman from Georgia. Already came in, already was getting first-round buzz because, he popped athleticism on tape, but already his pursuit, just ability to be effective immediately in rush defense, stopping the run, and upside to develop into a very legitimate pass rusher. Combine that with the fact that he came in 6'5", 275, ran a 4.51 and a 6.83 in the 3, like S tier. Generational athlete, freak of nature athlete for a team that, as much as they need to improve the offensive line, they need to find a way to get after the quarterback. And I think Travon Walker, with the combine that he has, probably solidified himself as a top 10 pick. And that's an annoying selection. That's an annoying haul as a Philadelphia Eagle fan to sit back and watch the Giants hit on 2 freaks of nature. One on offense, one on defense. But I think Travon Walker makes a whole lot of sense for the New York Giants as they try to continue to retool that defense and find a winning combination of a pass rush between what they have on there. I think already, hey, got some good guys. Dex Lawrence, Leonard Williams, throw Travon Walker in the mix. Things start to get a little bit dicey in the pass rush department in the NFC East. Pick 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons, and they're getting one of my favorite players in the draft, and that is Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. Dominated the combine, 4.41, which is an outstanding time for him. Almost 6'3", lockdown corner. A.J. Terrell had a breakout year for the Atlanta Falcons. Having Sauce Gardner on the other side is a disgusting corner tandem to build around for the next 4 or 5 years minimum. I think Sauce Gardner looked the best during the on-field drills as well for the cornerbacks. Just all in all, dominant weekend for Sauce Gardner. Solidified himself, in my opinion, as corner 1. And I think for Atlanta, a lot of directions they could go. I think they'll probably be interested in someone like Travon Walker, especially on that 3-4 that they're rocking with. But I think Sauce Gardner, that's the guy you want, man, right now if you're an Atlanta Falcon fan. Him and A.J. Terrell should be magic. You should be able to shut down any team within your division And going forward, that is a disgusting secondary with two guys that are for sure have all-pro ceilings to their game. Pick 9, we have the Denver Broncos on the clock. And I'm going to have the Denver, again, another team kind of could go anywhere. I'm going to have them select Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher from Florida State. There's already rumors that they want to bring back Von Miller, which is weird. But at least shows you indication that we're going, who knows what's going on with the quarterback situation, right? Aaron Rodgers, are they even going to have this pick 9 when all is said and done? Who knows? But as it stands right now, Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher, crushed at the combine, 4.58. Tested with the linebackers, which is kind of weird, but I think he can stand up. He can play in their scheme. He can play there, 3-4. You can rotation him a little bit. But a breakout year for Florida State. Tested out of his mind at the combine and will give the Denver Broncos an immediate pass rush help and successor for Von Miller. Pick 10 is on the clock. The New York Jets. With the first pick, they got Kyle Hamilton, went on the defensive side. Now I think, it's time to help out Zach Wilson. The offense was a little dicey. So we're going to follow it up with, I think, wide receiver 1 in the draft, and that is Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Ran a 4.38, 36-inch vertical. Not the biggest guy. Kind of reminds you a little bit in terms of build and what I think he can have success in the NFL of Devontae Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles. Slight frame, kind of a legitimate knock against him, but in terms of route running, hands, body control, fact that he knocked it out of the park from an athletic testing, I think, pretty much consensus now that Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 1, and the Jets, you got Elijah Moore, be your successor at the slot. You paid money for Corey Davis. You can still have him work on the outside, but you got to find that other partner. And it's not Denzel Mims, unfortunately, but you can get that in Garrett Wilson. You need to get weapons for Zach Wilson, and Garrett Wilson is your best chance at doing so at pick 10. Pick 11, we have the football team who are pretty much come out and said they need a starting quarterback. They are aggressively looking for a starting quarterback. Russell Wilson, that's probably not going to happen. So you're going to try to get Jimmy Garoppolo. I think if you want a starting quarterback, there is talent in Kenny Pickett. Kenny Two Gloves. That's where I have football team going. A lot of people, comparisons, Joe Burrow with the hand size, he could slip. Much like Joe Burrow, I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. And Kenny Pickett, I think he's Ryan Tannehill. That's my comp for him. Did my quarterback rankings yesterday. You can go check that out. Something like Ryan Tannehill, that's a big upgrade for Washington. And with the team that the Commanders have right now on defense, hopefully they can figure out the Brandon Schrift situation because he's by far and away their most talented offensive lineman. But Scary Terry, Gibson, if you can get Schrift back, that O-line is solid. Continue to probably build on that a little bit. Someone like Kenny Pickett, the most pro-ready quarterback in the draft, he's the kind of guy that can give Washington a chance in 2022. New branding, new franchise quarterback, and a chance to be very competitive next season within the NFC. Minnesota Vikings are on the clock now with pick 12, and they're going to select Derek Stingley Jr., the corner from LSU. Very popular position pick for the Vikings. They need a hit in that secondary. And while Stingley didn't test, there's red flags, injury issues. His play has kind of dropped off. LSU's been a shit show. I saw enough of the Derek Stingley in year 1 where he looked like a bona fide top 3 pick at corner. I think he's going to test out of his mind at the pro day. I think it'd be very inopportunistic to gamble and bet against Derek Stingley. I think it's much like the tackles, Ike Ekwonu, Evan Neal, be Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner, 1A, 1B. Even though right now I'll firmly have Sauce Gardner at that 1A spot, Stingley's an absolute beast. For a team like the Minnesota Vikings that drastically need to find another playmaker. They need to retool. They need to get younger in that secondary. No more peak, prime Xavier Rhodes. Harrison Smith's getting older. This historically good secondary for the last decade, it's getting old. You need to get some fresh faces in. They've missed on a couple picks, some of that's been out of their control. With Jeff Gladney for another, he was a big investment, just obviously off the field stuff. But I think Derek Stingley, well worth the risk. Even though I want him to fall a couple picks. Derek Stingley still on the board at 15. Eagles running that one up there. But I think Stingley, a very good fit here for the Vikings. I think even if you're like, I don't know about that pick, just wait till the pro day. After the pro day, Vikings fans will be loving the selection of Derek Stingley at 12. 13, we have the Cleveland Browns. Think they need to go wide out. I think another guy that did help himself a little bit at the combine was Chris Olave from Ohio State. Always was, a first-round discussion type wide receiver. The fact that he ran out 4.39, which is faster than expected. 32-inch vert wasn't great, but he's a guy that's been more so, his route running is pretty damn good. Very solid hands. Burner was never, the first adjective that came into describing Chris Olave. He insane production for Ohio State over the last couple of years. I think the fact that he came in with that time showed that speed. Him and Garrett Wilson like for like, and a lot of the athletic testing drills look smooth. The kind of playmaker you're going to have to get Baker Mayfield. Odell didn't work out. Seems like Jarvis Landry could be on the way out there. So a lot of turnover at the wide receiver room for Cleveland. And even though DPJ has some upside, a lot of frustration from some of his play. Some of the times when Donovan Peoples-Jones had a chance to oh my God, can he be the guy that can success OBJ? There was drops. There was some just miscues and stuff like that. I think wide receiver is a priority. I think Jameson Williams makes some sense here. I think Treylon Burks also can make some sense here for the Cleveland Browns. But I think they're going to fall in love with Olave's speed, and they could be put off by the injury with Jameson Williams. When is he going to be ready to play? Is he going to be ready to play day one? So I think the tiebreaker there could be how impressive Olave was at the Combine, and that's why I have him going to the Browns. But I think wide receiver, great option there for the Browns at pick 13. Pick 14, Baltimore Ravens. And we're actually going to have them go after an offensive tackle that I've mocked them for a minute now, and that is Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. Had a good Senior Bowl. Tested very well. 4.89, the 40-yard dash. And for as much as it says, fast 40s for the offensive tackles usually translate to good NFL players. It's much like the corners. It's weird. You look more so for the 10-yard split, but Penning looked good. He looked good in the drills. Very good athlete. And I still think for the Ravens, while there's lots of areas they could go at 14. You could look to improve the interior of the offensive line. No real value there at 14. You can go pretty much anywhere on the defense. Front seven. Secondary can improve that a little bit. I still think Penning's the guy. I think you get a guy right now, plug and play at that right tackle spot. You get a healthy Ronnie Stanley. And with Lamar Jackson there under center, offensive line, that is incredibly important. This team only goes as far as Lamar can take them. And Lamar can only take them so far with not a good offensive line. So I think Penning it's a prototypical Ravens pick. Ravens love picking guys from smaller schools. And I think with the Combine, he solidified himself as a first-round tackle. And I think he can be plug-and-play day one starter at right tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. All right, we got back-to-back picks for my beloved Philadelphia Eagles. First up, we're going to have them get David Ojabo, edge rush from Michigan. I've been mocking him here for a minute now. I think it makes sense. And I think it's realistic that Ojabo will be there because, while he tested very well, 4.55, which is outstanding for him, he didn't look the best during the drills, which is kind of what people are saying. He's still learning the position, high athlete, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of Josh Sweat a little bit, when Josh Sweat would come into the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Josh Sweat wasn't as raw of a player as Ojabo. Josh Sweat's issues were more so the off-field, the medicals. But in terms of high ceiling athletic edge rusher that you teach everything else along the way, I think you can find similar success to Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat got that big time contract. People were expecting a big year from Josh Sweat. I mean, didn't he make the Pro Bowl or something crazy like that as like a 6 alternate? But he still made it. I think for David Ojabo, kind of replace one Michigan edge rusher in Brandon Graham with another. Gamble on that athleticism, gamble on that upside. I mean, outside of that, for edge rushers, I like Ojabo more than Karlaftis. Then you start getting down there. It's like, all right. I mean, you have the athletic freaks, Mafe, Barno. Ojabo was good enough. Sam Williams. I like Ebiketie, but I think Ebiketie's a better fit in a 3-4. So I think Philly got to go edge rusher. And while Ojabo's not a immediate home run because he needs to refine his game a little bit, I think you have to gamble on that athletic upside. And then at number 16 for Philadelphia, this is something that I don't love, but I think it's worth doing, and there's just been talks. You look at any beat writer, Philadelphia probably wants to, move on from Fletcher Cox. It's been the last 2 years. You look at any article talking about salary caps. I mean, you even had it during the trade deadline, where it was like Fletcher Cox was apparently on the block at the trade deadline. So all I'm starting to see is that they're trying to move on from Fletch. Jordan Davis, terrifying human being. Like one of the most impressive combines you've ever seen. Don Terry Poe levels even exceeded that. And I think if you're looking for Philadelphia, and they're sticking with Jalen Hurts, you need to realize as an Eagle fan, if you're sticking and the franchise is committing to Jalen Hurts for another year, they are not expecting to be a Super Bowl caliber team next season. They are going to year 2 of Jalen Hurts as a full-time starter and evaluating him. And if that is the true path, this is still not a team that's geared up to winning immediately. If it happens, I mean, we made the playoffs with Jalen Hurts, it happens. But it's not like Philadelphia is gearing up and acquiring veterans to go on that big run. You need to think about still 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. Is Fletcher Cox still going to be on this team in that amount of time? Probably not. Odds say it's not. So Jordan Davis, Especially if you look at Jordan Davis, the knock on him is that he didn't play a lot of snaps. One is, yeah, he's gigantic, and there's some worry to that. Two is just the amount of talent they had in that Georgia defensive line. Why not try to keep all those guys fresh? It's like back when Philadelphia had Jim Schwartz and they kept rotating the defensive line. That's just a style. You want fresh guys out there, keep rotating them so it keeps your elite players that much fresher, that much stronger late in games. So while there is some concerns about stamina and reps for Jordan Davis, I think if you're looking big picture for the Philadelphia Eagles, the fact that if they are truly committing to Jalen Hurts for another year, you can understand that we're probably still 2-3 years away from being where this roster needs to be to go on a legitimate run. And do you think Fletcher Cox is still going to be on this team 2-3 years from now? If yes, this pick makes no sense. If no, Jordan Davis paired with Milton Williams, paired with Javon Hargrave, who's been outstanding, that's probably the future of the D-line for the Philadelphia Eagles. And let's be honest, it's Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman will always, even if we have day plug and play, first 3 starters on the depth chart, he will always prioritize defensive and offensive lines, gets best talent available on those spots. And after that combine, we're going to swoop ahead of the Chargers and grab Jordan Davis. Not my favorite pick. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm putting too much into Howie Roseman's tendencies. Maybe, Fletcher Cox is here 2-3 years down the line. But right now, that's kind of my vibe with that selection. So the Chargers, a little upset. Now they're on the clock at pick 17. They get a hell of a consolation prize, which is Devontae Wyatt, the other defensive tackle from Georgia. Now, not the same fit, but they just need run stuffers. They need guys that can immediately come in, start day one, and slow down the run. The opposing teams were able to run all over the Chargers last year, and I think you look at the combine, I'm going to be honest, 4.77 for Wyatt, another S-tier athlete. Literally, I think was the second fastest 40 time, probably was the second best D-line athlete after Jordan Davis. And I will say this, out of all the defensive tackles that worked out, Devontae Wyatt was the most impressive during the drills. It was outstanding. It was incredible. And I was like, you know what? I was even considering Devontae Wyatt over Jordan Davis here at pick 16. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a discussion this gets had for the Philadelphia Eagles. But for the Chargers, you got to go D-tackle, I think, at this spot. You got to get someone that can affect the run. And Devontae Wyatt, even if you're missing out on Jordan Davis, that is a hell of a consolation prize because he's a day one starter. He's an improvement to your rush defense. I think he's going to be an absolute baller. My God, it's starting to make sense that why Georgia won the national championship. They have freaks at all levels, at multiple positions on that defensive side of the ball. Pick 18, we have the New Orleans Saints. Now, I thought maybe there's quarterbacks. I feel like the Saints are going veteran. I feel like the Saints are going to get whatever. Trubisky, Jameis Winston. I don't think the Saints are going to pull a trigger on a first-round quarterback this year. Maybe they look in the second round and some of these guys slip. So at this spot, what's the next big needy position? And I think it's wide receiver. And looking at the wide receivers, looking at how they try to run their wide receivers with Sean Payton, I'm going Treylon Burks. People are sleeping on, man. People are like, he had a 4.55 at the combine. Like, oh, that's slow. Everyone else running, John Ross territory, stuff like that. Treylon Burks is 230 pounds. Like all these other guys that were running 4.3s, 4.2s, low 4.4s, they're like 200, soaking wet. He's 230. He's an absolute beast, gadget type player, working on his route running. That's really only knock you have against Treylon Burks is limited route tree. But that's pretty much a knock on like 90% of players coming from the college game. Because in college, you just maximize their strengths. Very few players come in where there's zero weakness to their game from the college football game. I think Treylon Burks, his versatility, his size, his upside, I'm absolutely gambling on the traits. Ridiculous hands, does not drop the football, I think, and blocks. He does he does everything, and someone like Sean Payton in that offense is going to be able to develop him into whatever he wants for a route runner. I think you pair that. Looks like Michael Thomas, hopefully you get him back. No suspension for Alvin Kamara. You have him as a weapon in the passing game out the backfield. It will help whatever the quarterback situation is for the Saints there. I just don't think at 18, any of these quarterbacks are truly going to be exciting the New Orleans Saints. You get Malik Willis. You probably still have to pay Jameis Winston or something like that to be quarterback one for the year. And I feel like if they're doing that, they're probably just going to gamble that another year under his belt. Maybe Jameis Winston can be the guy, and that'd be a wasted pick at a quarterback at 18. So they get Treylon Burks, absolute stud out of Arkansas. A little bit of piss because I think Burks is a very entertaining option for the Eagles at 19, but he gets swooped ahead of them by the Saints at 18. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at 19. We are screaming for linebacker. I'm probably screaming for linebacker. I think for Philadelphia, for Howie Roseman to break this pattern of just completely devaluing the linebacker spot, you need a linebacker to test like Micah Parsons did. Fortunately, he didn't quite get that. Christian Harris tested very well. Troy Anderson tested very well. But point being, Devin Lloyd, 4.66. He didn't have a bad combine, but he needed. I was looking as an Eagle fan, someone to test off the charts that it's like how he can't not pick this guy. Maybe there's a chance Kobe Dean runs like 4.3 or something crazy like that at his pro day, and you can plug and play him right here at Philadelphia at 19. I just think for Howie Roseman, I'm trying to view this kind of as the Eagles. They were only break the mold, listen to the fans, get their linebacker if they were just a great linebacker, had the tape of a Kobe Dean and Devin Lloyd, and then also were like a generational athlete. And unfortunately, we did not see that. And as much as I would be perfectly fine, even with the 4.6 of drafting Devin Lloyd, because it could be Darius Leonard 2.0. We're missing on that at 19. I just don't think we saw enough from the linebacking group of the combine for Howie Roseman to want to take a linebacker at 19. So you don't go linebacker. What else do we need? We need a DB. You could go either safety, but I think there's a lot of depth at safety into day 2 that Philadelphia could be aggressive. I think Jaquan Brisker, Lewis Seen, Jalen Petrie, those are going to be guys that are probably there day 2. And if you really want them, you can be aggressive and go get them. For me, I'm looking at the corners. Gator bias. Kyrie Elam, 6'2", ran a 4.39, was severely underrated at Florida. Does exactly what a corner needs to do in Jonathan Gannon's scheme. He is an outside corner. Will be able to play right away, I think, outside the other side of Darius Slay. You keep Avonte Maddox in the slot. Long, lengthy, tackles well. Very aggressive in the run game, which is exactly like one of the top tendencies you want to see in a corner for Jonathan Gannon's scheme. You need to be able to tackle, willing tackler. We saw that. Darius Slay will tackle. Kyrie Elam will tackle. I think this might be a little bit of a surprise pick. This is not just, Florida Gator bias, even though Howie Roseman, University of Florida, there is some ties there, even though Howie really hasn't been, Gator bias by any means. But I think when you're looking at the corners, Andrew Booth could be a good fit here as well. Interested to see how he tests at his pro day. But you look at McDuffie, did not come with the measurements. You're hoping McDuffie was 5'11" and had 42-inch vert. He came in, T-Rex arms, 5'9", I think, 5'10", just barely 5'10". I think McDuffie's the better corner technically right now, but for what Philly need, McDuffie's kind of guy, if Philly drafted McDuffie at corner, he's best suited in Avonte Maddox role. And Avonte Maddox just got the new contract. So you need someone that can gamble on the traits, that can play and develop on the outside. And at 19 right now, I think I'm going Kyrie Elam over any of the other corners on the market. Pick 20 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get their quarterback, Malik Willis. A lot of rumblings that is who they were interested at the Senior Bowl. And they get their guy here. Did not test. Thought he looked pretty decent. Looked as the quarterback that I thought he was at the combine there during the throwing drills. Had the huge arm. Really was like the arm off between him and Carson Strong. A little bit of Kenny Pickett in there. But he also missed some throws, some inconsistent throws. Looked awkward in some of the drills that required touch. But that's what you're getting in Malik Willis. You look at my quarterback rankings that I dropped yesterday. He's just an exceptional athlete. Can't have an arm. Got to be patient. I don't know how patient the Steelers will be, because you draft Malik Willis here. It's just like, all right, do we go Malik Willis, throw him to the Wolves, see if he can make plays and survive with his athletic ability, his scrambling, his mobility, while we work on his arm? Or do you just have Malik Willis as a backup and you go Mason Rudolph or something like this? I don't know. But I think long term, this is probably the best move here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Give you a quarterback with true upside and could have, might not be an immediate successor to Ben Roethlisberger, but year 2, 2023, you probably feel pretty confident starting Malik Willis at quarterback. Now, hopefully, this gamble doesn't mean you suck in 2022 and then have a top pick in 2023, because then if you're comparing Malik Willis to, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, potentially, the likes of Anthony Richardson, it won't stack up as well. So there is risk here for Pittsburgh, but I think most Steelers fans are okay, at least, with the idea of Malik Willis at pick 20. Pick 21, Patriots on the clock. I have them going with Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. Really came down to 2 players from either Jameson Williams or Andrew Booth Jr. at corner. Obviously, they're losing a lot at corner, but I also think they don't have a whole lot at wide receiver. And I think push comes to shove, especially, imagine if Jameson Williams tested on that fast field at Indy. It would have been right there with Tyquan Thornton, I think. 4.2 speed in Jameson Williams. Best deep threat in college football. I think that's as important of a get for this Patriot offense as is improving the secondary. They can be able to improve their secondary in free agency, I think more so than adding someone of Jameson Williams' caliber in free agency that kind of addressed wide receiver in free agency last year and overpaid for a lot of guys. That ultimately, wasn't a bad offense. We're able to succeed with Mac Jones. But getting someone like Jameson Williams that can truly take the top off of defense, you pair that with what they have right now, the tight ends, and just, they got a bunch of wide receiver twos. Pair a guy that has legit wide receiver 1 ceiling. Can be Deshaun Jackson in his prime for Mac Jones. I think that can unlock the Patriots offense, take them to the second gear that they weren't able to achieve this year, and take them further. And then they can look, the rest of the draft, they can look in free agency to improving that secondary and the rest of the defense. But, either or, Jameson Williams, Andrew Booth, I don't think there's a bad pick there at 21 for the Patriots. And I think literally this 21 and 22, vice versa picks. Patriots go Booth, I think Raiders go Williams. If Patriots go Williams, I think Raiders go Andrew Booth. Raiders secondary, David Arnett fizzled out. Casey Hayward, free agent. You have, he had some success with the Hobbs, and he's having off-field issues. So, the secondary right now for the Raiders, I think is as important to improve as the wide receiver room. I think if you're looking at wide receivers for the Raiders, they need speed, and if you need speed, you're not getting that in Drake London. Are you going to take Jahan Dotson with the size concerns in the first round or gamble that he might slip a little bit? So I think looking at the board, Andrew Booth last, with McDuffie, probably first-round caliber corner, and more so with McDuffie, you have a slot guy. So if you still have Hobbs, you probably don't need McDuffie for your secondary. You need a guy that can go play right now on the outside. So I think Booth or McDuffie could be nice, especially, there's going to be some teams that still probably have McDuffie as a guy that's capable of playing on the outside. That's what he did at Washington. But legitimate size concerns coming out of the combine, I think you go Booth. Should test well at his combine. Makeup, which is his pro day at Clemson. Can tackle, has some length. So pretty good tape. Even though it wasn't a good Clemson team, really by any regard on offense or defense last season, Booth was still probably consistently one of the more impressive players on that defense. I think that's a good pick there for the Raiders, who usually have, they make a meal of their first-round selections. It needs to be said. Raiders have not had the best, hindsight. It's not even just in hindsight. Hindsight, it hasn't worked out. And in the moment, really, the Raiders haven't hit on their first-round picks. People head-scratching selections. I'm like, why are these guys? Andrew Booth at 22 is a trend in the right direction. New front office of getting best player available. A pick that most Raider fans will be pretty damn happy about. 23. We have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock, and we have them getting George Karlaftis, edge rusher from Purdue. Think when you look at the Cardinals, you got Chandler Jones, question mark there. You got J.J. Watt. Where's he going to be in 2 years? Is he gone? The long-term projection of edge rusher right now is murky for the Arizona Cardinals. I think someone like Karlaftis, I think he's going to fall a little bit, short arms. At Combine, he was out there for the drills. Didn't run a 4. It's just, it is what it is, man. The production wasn't really there at Purdue. Good athlete, good power rush move. I think he probably can learn a thing or two being under the wing and guys of J.J. Watt on that team. But I think long-term, probably at this point in the draft at 23, edge is a need. That's good value. It's really between him and Arnold Ebiketie I would have personally in that first-round discussion, at least at 23. I think for someone like Karlaftis, maybe a better base than Ebiketie. Ebiketie, pure finesse rusher. He's 6'2", 250. He was disgusting during the on-field drills. But I think you might get a little bit higher ceiling with Karlaftis, and I think that's, either way. Some decent edge there for 23, and I think a lot of people are going to look at Karlaftis being mocked a lot higher. And if you're kind of 23, slip it to us, we'll absolutely nab that up all damn day. But I think edge is certainly a position they should look at improving. Corners, another one, just the corner market. Again, you look at McDuffie. I don't want to just completely pencil him in as a slot corner, but it's fair to assume right now a lot of teams could be viewing him as such. And at that point, I'm going edge rusher over a slot corner every day of the week. Dallas up next at 24. And I'm going to have them go with a very impressive safety, and that is Daxton Hill. I've had Daxton Hill mocked to the Cowboys a couple times, but he had an outstanding combine, 4.38 in the 40-yard dash, and just, versatility. Can play in the slot. I think he'd be able to be free safety. I think he's going to be able to help out a little bit of the big plays that they might give up with that certain corner that is an absolute ball hawk, but gets punished from time to time. Something like Daxton Hill, great compliment to that. Can clean up a lot of mistakes, I think, that might happen from the boomer bust play of Trevon Diggs. And the fact that he tested as well as he did at the Combine really solidifies him as a first-rounder and an easy get for Dan Quinn and that Cowboys defense. 25, the Buffalo Bills. This was actually a really tough pick. I'm not exactly sure where Bills fans really want to go here at 25. Tried looking around at blogs and stuff like that, seeing where they're thinking. And like O-line, maybe. Someone like Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson at guard. But it's just not a position they spend a lot of money at. There's some value here at edge rusher. I think Ebiketie would be awesome. some value at linebacker. They don't really need a linebacker. So, like, for them, I was like, you know what? Let's give them a playmaker. Continue to elevate that offense. And, you know, as much as I don't see it with them, there's just too many people that are way better at their job than I am saying Drake London's going to the first round. Obviously, you have unreal production at USC last year. Jump ball specialist. Guy that's red zone threat. Guy that can handle volume. And, you know, they don't really have Drake London. You know, Gabe Davis kind of in that mold a little bit. But, you know, they're different styles of playmakers. And Gabe Davis with his emergence. You have Stephon Diggs. I just feel kind of going all in. It seems like they're shipping Cole Beasley. You know, Manuel Sanders was just like a one-year Band-Aid rental. They need another wide receiver. They need their third wide receiver. Don't really know who's going to play in the slot. You know, you probably don't want to regress Stephon Diggs purely to the slot. Could be a role, though, that you expand him to. But Drake London is a big-time playmaker. First-round value at wide receiver. Kind of just going BPA. I mean, like, really, where else do you go? Do you go Breece Hall? Or are you fine and content with, you know, the late-season emergence from Devin Singletary? Do you go... You know, you could go tackle. Like, you don't need a tackle really, but you could go Tyler Smith, Tulsa. You know, Raymond from Central Michigan. You know, Linderbaum, Kenyon Green, Zion Johnson on the O-line. This is a tough pick. Like, I genuinely want the feedback of Bills fans because I did not really know what to do with you guys here at 25. I was like, all right, let's just go with the guy right now that's still on the board because you don't need a linebacker. So let's go with the guy that's consensus. Like, I was thinking Trent McDuffie, but you have Teron Johnson. You just paid. They're similar style players. You prepare for life beyond, you know, Poyer and Hyde are getting up there in age. You know, Brisker or Sign, they could be a guy. But, yeah, Drake London, it's a tough it was a tough pick. It was a tough pick for me to make. Would definitely like to hear you guys' feedback. 26, Tennessee Titans, I think they go tackle. I think they get Tyler Smith, who was outstanding. Tested very well, 5.02 in the 40. Splits were decent. An absolute mauler, getting a lot of hype right now as a first rounder. And I think, again, I go back to the first pick. Ike Ekwonu and Tyler Smith were easily, in my opinion, the best two tackles during the drills there for the offensive tackles at the Combine. And I think for the Tennessee Titans, get a plug and play at right tackle. And I think long term, you know, let's be honest, Taylor Lewan, not the same Taylor Lewan. Starting to show some signs that he's getting up there in age a little bit. And I think either way, Tyler Smith, long term starter, eventual probably successor at left tackle, but plug and play at right tackle for Tennessee. And it's the Titans, man. You know, they need a good O-line. That is their offense. That is their offensive identity, is to pound the rock. And someone like Tyler Smith is a perfect fit for that Titans scheme. 27, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to have them go on the offense. Surprising retirement to Ali Marpet. So let's try to replace him right away with Zion Johnson. I think, unfortunately, I was not impressed with Kenyon Green during the drills. You know, didn't test, average tester. And then I thought he did. He looked sloppy. You know, I think he might potentially slip out of the first round. He's talented. I think he's fringe first round, still on the offensive line. But Zion Johnson, I think, has surpassed him. Versatility is key. He came in, put in 32 reps on the bench press, showed off his power, versatility, and with the surprise retirement of Ali Marpet, I think improving that offensive line is now, kind of surpassed maybe getting younger on the defense for the Tampa Bay Bucks for how they address and assess that first round selection. Still can maybe look at wide receiver, especially if they think Chris Godwin's going to hit the open market. Dotson, Pickens could, fit right into that role. But I think for right now, improving the offensive line and replacing Ali Marpet should be top priority for the Bucks. To pick number 28, we have the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going to have them. It looks like they're going to be doing a complete overhaul of their pass rush. Rashawn Gary at 1. Who's going to be 2? I'm going Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State. His drills were outstanding. I think it's fair to say, out of all the edges that have gone, I think right there with Hutchinson and Jermaine Johnson, Ebiketie was right there as the best edge rusher that I saw on the field there at Indy. Very explosive. You saw the finesse. He's very much a finesse pass rusher. Pursuit is going to be off the charts. I'm surprised he didn't run. I would be fast. He's probably waiting for that Penn State Pro Day. Very fast field for the Penn State Pro Day. Some ridiculous times have come over the last couple of years. But I think the Temple transfer has solidified himself as a first-round selection. And with the overhaul that it sounds like Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, probably gone, probably shuffling some salary cap because, they're going to try to keep the quarterback. You got to try to make Devontae Adams happy. That comes by, reinvesting, rebuilding that pass rush. I think Ebiketie on one side, Rashawn Gary on the other is going to be great for the Green Bay Packers going forward. 29, we have the Miami Dolphins. Here's kind of just BPA. The Dolphins here, they could go offensive line. Linderbaum would be a starter. Kenyon Green could be a starter. I'm going to Kobe Dean. I I think they also need a middle linebacker there. You got Baker, solid, good athlete. You got Van Ginkel. He looked like he was breaking out last year, was just solid. I think Nakobe Dean, leader of that defense for years to come. A lot of different areas they can go. I think this is just BPA. Maybe linebacker's not a screaming top-tier, S-tier need. I think it's still a need. And I think with the guy that's a legitimate first-round talent slipping this far to 29, Miami probably thought before the draft process there's no way he was going to be there. I think, there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong. The free fall had to stop for Nakobe. And I think this probably might even look bad in hindsight once you see the pro day. If he tests well at the pro day, we get like 4.5, high 4.5s, 4.6s. Again, I just think in today's NFL, you need to be freaky athlete at that linebacker spot, a spot that in position that's constantly devalued. I don't know what the expectations are going to be for Nakobe Dean when he does test, but I think at 29, if he's still sitting there for the Dolphins, it at least gives you something to think about, because as much as I think they should go offensive line, you look at the investment they've made on the O-line, first round, high picks, Hunt, Dieter, third round pick, Jackson, Eckenberg, like they are spending money to try to improve this. I don't know if they'd be so quickly to burn another first round pick on that offensive line, even though I think they should. So if you're not going that, if you're thinking like, I don't know, man, maybe it's a bad look. Maybe there's too much pride in that front office to go again on the offensive line, admitting failures from past drafts. Nakobe Dean is a hell of a switch up if that is where you're going for the Miami Dolphins. Pick 30, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to have the Chiefs get Trent McDuffie. I think Trent McDuffie, regardless if they view him inside or outside, he's going to find a place in that Chiefs secondary. You look at the corners that they have there. L'Jarius Sneed's decent on the outside. Outside of that, though, I think it could be a lot of moving pieces for that secondary. Kind of go BPA in that secondary. Look at the board that's there. They don't need a lineman. They don't need a linebacker. So now you're starting to get into like luxury picks. Do we look at, wide receivers that are left at this point? Dotson, Pickens, maybe. But I think for the most part, McDuffie proves that Kansas City Chiefs secondary, that defense that took way too long to put it all together last season. And that's a value pick for a guy that I think might slip just a teeny bit with some of those measurements, but a terrific, terrific player. And technically, I think if you just look at what he did at Washington, I would not fault you if you still had him in that CB1, that corner one conversation. I just think for his length, might have got pigeonholed as a slot corner, which is still valuable in today's NFL. Those are starters, but not every team needs a slot corner. And if you still view him as a slot, he can fit for the Chiefs. And if you still view him as an outsider, he can still fit for the Kansas City Chiefs at pick 30. Lots of versatility there with that selection. 31, we have the Bengals. Just go best lineman. Linderbaum, at this point, first-round talent. Really short. Measurements wasn't the best. But I think between Linderbaum, you can go Kenyon Green. You could look at, there's going to be value into day two, but I really think those are the two selections. You got to go back. You just got to retool the entire O-line. Every single pick in this draft, I feel like for the Bengals, needs to be offensive line. And why not go with pound for pound, technically, and from the tape that he put up at Iowa, as impressive as any lineman in this year's draft, and that is Linderbaum at center. And then we finish at 32 with the Detroit Lions via the Rams. And here I just, the free fall for another player. Didn't have the best combine, but he's probably Darius Leonard 2.0. It's going to be Devin Lloyd. Let's save it, sure. Great mock draft tool here. But I think Devin Lloyd, height, weight, speed kind of lines up with Darius Leonard. Production at Utah kind of lines up with what Darius Leonard's been able to do with the Colts. And, he ran 4.72. The official came back 4.66. You can live with the 4.66 even though on tape. Definitely look faster. I was thinking, high 4.5s, but, really go, what's it, 4.59, 4.66. Are you really going to be like, that guy's not a first rounder because of that discrepancy? So I think that's a nice value pick there for the Lions. And then they're going to be picking early again where they can look at wide receiver, give them, Jahan Dotson or George Pickens like that early and often. Or there's still some quarterbacks so they can potentially take a swing on to start the second round. But Devin Lloyd at 32, great value for the Detroit Lions. So there you go, fellas. That is my post-combine NFL mock draft. What do you think about it? You think I did your team dirty? Do you like what I did? Do you think anyone else that maybe slipped in the second round is a lock to go in the first round? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. But that will do it for me today, guys. Thank you guys for very much hanging out with me for the afternoon, talking combine, talking mock draft. I very much enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.